Well, hi there, YouTube fans, Facebook friends, and lovely lovers. Amitaba here, also known as your friendly neighborhood Taba. So today I am making a video for two people. In fact, it was supposed to be only for one, and also for everybody else in the universe. So really, it's not just for two people. Um, and somebody asked me a question last night, and then somebody today. About health, and I do know a lot about health, and I'm lucky, not lucky enough. I am smart enough to have taken control of my health, and uh, and I don't get sick anymore. So I've gotten sick 2 times in 3 years, and I know exactly what happened both times. So let's get right into it here today on Amitaba's Health Channel now. So the first question was basically this guy I know was looking to convert over to veganism, and he wants to know how he can do it and what's the easiest way. And I wrote him a big long response already, and so maybe I'll recap or something, and then his other question was. I'm drinking coffee every morning. It's just not doing anything for me. And so let's get into the veganism part first, and then we'll address the coffee and why that's not going to work long term, and why it's just going to cause terrible health problems and long term challenges for you, even in a mental capacity way. So being vegan, and there's many good reasons why, and I encourage everybody to check it out. Vegetarianism is great, but I stopped eating meat about 7 or 8 years ago because I had two aunts die of cancer within a month and a half of each other, and then I had read something about how they radiate beef cows, and because there's so much bacteria that they actually radiate it, and so you're eating radiation to cut down on bacteria, and radiation causes cancer. And I was like, okay, there's no way I'm eating beef or meat ever again. And then I had been listening to Anthony Robbins and his interviews with Dr. Robert Young, which are really good, about the lovely fecal soup. What chicken is. Basically, there's some poo in all of chicken. There's some poo, and so if you eat chicken, you're eating poo. So just so you know, it's just the truth. And look up fecal soup and find out what it is, and don't deny it, because I mean, ignorance is not bliss. I don't care what anybody says. Ignorance equals death and unhappiness, and people just say it's bliss because they're apathetic towards their own well-being, and they just don't care. So you're watching this because you clearly care. So I stopped eating meat, and then I gradually I didn't stop 100% right away. I still ate meat every couple of weeks because I had this belief that you needed meat to be healthy. You needed meat for protein. This is one of his other questions also, by the way. And then I listened to Anthony Robbins' Living Health Seminar, which is about 9 CDs and includes Dr. Robert Young's interview. And then after that, I was like, you listen to that and you're never eating meat again. Otherwise, I don't know how it's possible anybody could do it after listening to that. Because you start to really learn about what happens to an animal after it's killed. And what's it called? Osmotic pressure, I think, keeps the cells together. Like, basically, there's something called osmotic I'm pretty sure it's osmotic pressure, and so there's a force surrounding every cell, and that keeps the cells together. And once the animal dies, the cells start breaking apart, acids start coming out, and then also in the colon and the bowels, that osmotic pressure is disappears, and then what's in there it immediately starts going into the bloodstream, the fecal matter going into the bloodstream, and everything breaks down and starts blending together, and then you get poo in everywhere. It's in everything. So then after that, it was easy. I just never ate meat ever again. I still ate some fish, and then I saw a whole fish at the grocery store with its eyes, and after that, I was like, I guess I can't do that either, because the animal rights sort of thing started coming in. I started realizing, I'm not going to cause any suffering to other beings, and as I started to work on my spirituality, and I don't want to cause any suffering to anybody, so there you go, no more meat. And then I still ate, pizza once in a while, like vegetarian pizza. And I was living with my girlfriend at the time, and we'd have pizza every once in a while. And I just noticed that the next morning, my throat would be all clogged up with mucus, and I'd have to blow my nose, and I'd get like yellow or green. Usually it was yellow, coming out my eyes, and I would get acne. So it just wasn't good, and I was like, if you use common sense and you start to realize what's going on with your health, I mean, if you're intelligent, you'll stop doing the things that are harming you. And this is what mindfulness is: looking at the world and seeing everything clearly, and not repeating your mistakes. And so I stopped eating milk, and obviously the eggs was pretty easy because I realized that they're baby chicken fetuses, and I was like, okay, I'm not eating that either. And so one of his questions is, so I just did it gradually, and there's lots to eat, man. People think there's nothing to eat, and I thought that too. I dated a vegetarian before I became vegetarian. I was like, there's nothing you can eat, and there's tons you can eat. There's, in fact, so many options, it's ridiculous to even discuss it. And now, one of his important questions is where do you get your protein from? And I'm a thin guy, but that has nothing to do with protein. And anybody that tells you that it's because I don't eat meat is uninformed. And the reason why you don't need protein is, think about, Anthony Robbins talks about this, think about the time in your life when you grow the fastest. We put the most muscle mass, the most bone mass, most brain matter. All your tissues are exploding, like you're just growing so fast. It's when you're a baby. And babies drink mother's milk. And mother's milk, I think it has 1.9% protein. So low. It's incredibly low. It's carbs and fats. Mostly carbohydrates. You need carbohydrates more than anything. And it's really interesting to see, like 10 years ago, it was no carbs, low, because the society goes through these cycles with diet. It's low fat, that's the way you lose weight, and then it's low carbs, and it's never seems to be low protein though. Interestingly, because there's a real big business in animal factory farming. So interestingly, that they never say low milk diet or low animal protein diet or whatever, because there's a lot of money to be made in that. They can swap out the fat and the carbs, no problem, because everybody makes products that have fat and carbs, and then they just market it differently. So you get your protein. You don't need very much protein, because protein is recycled in the body, and people don't know that. I didn't know that. And oh man, this camera's it's hard to hold it, baby. How do I do it? And so protein is recycled in the body, and you only need a little bit for rebuilding tissues. Like if you worked out or something, you need some protein for that, and for basic repair. Other than that, most of your proteins are amino acids, and let's look at proteins for what they really are. They're not proteins, they're amino acids. We need amino acids from our food, because when you eat animals, for example, or cheese or any animal products, that are in a protein form, they got their protein from plants. They got them from amino acids. And amino acids come from plants. Everything comes from the sun and the earth. And the purpose of food is to get sunlight energy into your body. And if you look into how the body actually works, and I highly recommend a book called The Intention Experiment, because I know they talked about it in there. But you can just look this up individually if you want, is look up biophotons. Because the body actually communicates, the cells actually communicate with light, and they're called biophotons. And if you don't have enough light in your body, your cells can't communicate properly. And the light manifests also as electricity. And you need electricity, you need electrons from the food, from plants, and good water. And but mostly you need to get electrons from plants, and that's why Dr. Robert Young, I really respect his work, even though I don't agree 100% with everything he says, because he's a very high-fat based diet guy. I think he's bang on with we get our electricity from electrons, and the thing he doesn't talk about is glucose, carbohydrates. He's not a big carbohydrate guy. And I've not been able to do the high-fat diet. I've tried it, and it just does not work for my body. It'll get me sick. It'll make me detox, and it's too toxic for me. So you get your protein from plants, and then the plants, there's amino acids in the plants, and the chlorophyll, the sunlight energy in the plants, and that sunlight energy. And they also absorb the ambient source energy from the air and the grounding earth energy from the mother. And it's all in the plants. That's why it's structured. If you look at, cut up a bell pepper and look at it, looks like cells, right? It looks like cells. That looks like something you'd want to eat. If you cut up a piece of steak, you're not going to eat it raw, first of all, which would probably be healthier for you. But when it's cooked, it's dead. What does it look like? It looks like rotting, dead flesh, doesn't it? It's brown. When you cut yourself open, what color is it? It's red. That means you're alive. When you're dying, your flesh will turn brown and putrefied. That's what cooked meat is dead flesh of an animal. Let's be honest. And so you need to get, and they've shown that carnivorous animals eat herbivores. So like the lions, they eat zebras, for example. And where they eat first? They eat the stomach, and because the zebras eat greens all day long. And so they go and they eat the stomach first. So that's really interesting. So everybody's getting everything from amino acids. And we can't fool ourselves anymore and think that we need protein. We just need sufficient calories, sufficient carbohydrates, and not processed carbohydrates. We need, fruit carbohydrates, some nuts and seeds, but mostly we need to get our energy from fruits. And I'm not saying I don't eat any processed foods. I ordered myself a vegan pizza first time in a long time. And I'll tell you, I noticed a little breakout right here. It's white flowers. It's toxic, but I haven't had one of those in a long time. I think I've made, maybe in the last year, I've maybe made myself like 4 of them ever in the last year, and that's moderation. A couple times a week is not moderation. Once a week is not moderation. So you need to get your protein from plants. Because in order to extract the protein from the animals, it has to be broken down, chewed, and the stomach acid breaks it down into amino acids, and then you take the amino acids, and that forms into proteins in your body, muscle. You can't go from protein to protein. It has to go to amino acids first, so why not get it from fruits and vegetables? Because they got tons. Goji berries, man, tons of amino acids. Amino acids are in everything. That's live. Once you cook it, amino acids they're gone, and there's just this tough protein structures which are incredibly difficult for the body to assimilate and break down. And so his other question, so that's enough about protein, I guess, and I'm just rambling because that's what I do. And he was talking about coffee. He was drinking coffee every morning, and it's just not working for him. The reason why it's not working for you, because first of all, it's acidic, and it's a stimulant. So you're not actually getting any real energy. You're getting fake, superficial energy, and it's not even real energy. All it's really doing is speeding up your system because it's a toxin. They're called excitotoxins in coffee and in chocolate, for example. And that excitotoxins are neurotoxins. They're poisonous to the brain, and so your body is speeding up to get rid of the toxins. That's what's going on when you have caffeine. It's toxic. It's not that it's speeding up because it's a good thing. It's speeding up because it's a bad thing. It's trying to raise your blood pressure and the rate of your flow of your blood to get it out. And it's dehydrating, which makes it harder for it to get out. So you get a stagnating, speeding up but not going anywhere. And so long term, once in a blue moon, have a coffee. It's not going to kill you. But I'm talking about real moderation here. I'm not talking about every day. I think every day is too much. One coffee a day, that's, I can say that's somewhat moderation, but I think real moderation is like every couple weeks, like when you're really, really tired and you have it. That's my moderation, but everybody's going to do whatever they're going to do, and there's no judgment here. So long term, though, coffee is going to strip you of your minerals and is going to damage your adrenals, and that's going to cause you to become prematurely gray and have lacking energy. And whenever you put acid into your system, see, every cell, the outside of the cells are negatively charged and the insides are positively charged. So what happens is acid can break down the electronic, I guess, not electronic, that's sort of the wrong way of saying it, electromagnetic shield around the cell. Let's say that. I don't know if that's correct. Somebody can correct me if you want. You probably will. And it breaks it down, and then some of that positive charge starts to show, and then the positive can attract the negative. Then your cells start sticking together. Your red blood cells all cells start sticking together, and they can't flow, especially red blood cells, which carry oxygen. And then you're lacking energy because your cells are not moving and you're not getting oxygen, and the more acid you put in the form of animal products, processed foods, colas, coffee, alcohol, all that's going to do is strip your electrons away from the outside of your cells and expose them so that they can not only break open but attach to other cells, and it just make you ill. And they also go through a process called pleomorphism, and cells can actually morph into bacterias and viruses and other pathogenic cells, and we don't want that in our blood. We want healthy cells, lots of red blood cells, plump, healthy cells with good, strong connections and charges around them, so that they repel each other, have maximum space. It's like feng shui for your blood. And so coffee's not going to do it for you. What you really need to do is some type of, you really need, I highly recommend green smoothies. And I got to end this in 50 seconds, so let's see if I can do it. This is the longest video I ever made. And green smoothies are great. I put bananas, kale without the stems, oranges, apples, pears sometimes, honey, cinnamon. Use some berries. Just try it out and experiment. There's no hard rules with green smoothies, but what it's going to do is it's going to give you something that's alkalizing. And I put my green supplement in there also. It's going to give you something that's alkalizing first thing in the morning instead of acidic, and it's going to give you electrons. It's going to give you sunlight energy to fuel your cells and give you that real long-lasting boost that you need, and not a superficial fake energy boost from coffee. So love you, man, and Leslie, I hope this answered your question also, and I might have to edit this now because I'm over 20 minutes. So we'll see what happens. Love you guys, and I'll do another one.